Do you think an extensive sexual history diminishes the value of a woman's sexuality?
No.
Does it play any part at all, or is it just completely just not really something to consider?
I think who someone is like based on their current state, not based on their past. And who they want to be, I think, is a big part of who someone is too.
What you just saw were two women completely rejecting the idea that a woman's history of having lots of partners in any way diminishes the value of her sexuality with her current partner. The woman on the left said that who somebody is not dependent on what they did in their past, but on the person that they are right now. I want to quickly replay that clip of the girl on the right who completely screws up her face because she finds it laughable, the idea that somebody's value in the present could in any way be informed by their actions in the past. Just take another look at that part.
No.
Now, the conversation with those two girls didn't stop there, and it gets pretty interesting. But before we get to that, let me first explain why this is all common sense, and applying this standard is not sexist because it would equally apply to men as well. I can illustrate this with a couple of examples. So for all of the women out there, let me ask you a question. If your new boyfriend took you on holiday, took you to some tropical island paradise, into this private luxury suite, and he had the entire bed completely covered in rose petals, that would make you feel pretty special, right? But would you feel less special if you found out that he'd already taken 20 other women to that exact same island, to that exact same room with the exact same rose petals on the bed? Or imagine that he buys you this beautiful piece of jewelry. Feels pretty good, it makes you feel pretty special, right? But what if you then found out that he's already bought hundreds of pieces of jewelry for women in his past? Or let's talk about something that's a bit less superficial. One of the most incredible parts of life is having children for the first time. You've got a young woman and a young man embarking on this journey of parenthood together. They're doing everything for the first time. They're crying, they're laughing, they're making mistakes, but they're supporting each other. That's the kind of thing that is made more special because you're equals. Neither of you has more experience than the other. You're going through all of this for the first time together. Now, as a woman, I want you to imagine that you're dating a man who has 3 ex-wives, and he has had children with all 3 of them. When you get pregnant and you're ready to go on this incredible journey of parenthood for the very first time, whereas your partner's already been through it a large number of times before, do you see how that experience has changed? What's magical and amazing to you because it's your first time has become kind of blasé to him. It's still enjoyable and all that, but it's definitely different. When it comes to female chastity, do you see how this is just an extension of that exact same logic? The sexual experience is beautiful. It's magical. It's amazing. It is the ultimate expression of self-esteem and of your biology. It's the union of 2 bodies. With that kind of intimacy, there is so much to learn, there's so much to experience, so much to discover for the first time. And you want to be having that first time with somebody who's also doing it for the first time. When 2 teenagers lose their virginity to each other, that is an awkward, clumsy experience, no doubt, but it's also kind of special and beautiful because as weird and awkward as it might be, they're going through both of that together as equals. They're discovering it all for the first time together. They're learning about their body and they're learning about the body of their partner. There is a sacredness. There's a vulnerability there that really makes that quite special. But now imagine a teenage boy who's losing his virginity to a woman who's already slept with 20 men. It's all new and magical to him, but for her, it's basically become routine because she's done it so many times before. It's still enjoyable, but she's having a vastly different experience to him. Essentially, she's just waiting for him to catch up. When 2 people are having such vastly different experiences, it's obviously going to diminish the enjoyment. That's just natural. When men say that they value female chastity and they want a woman who hasn't had that many partners, this is one of the most important reasons why, is because there's a whole sexual journey to go on, and he wants to do that with a partner who's his equal. It is so ironic that our culture will call men who desire a woman with a low partner count sexist or misogynistic. It's as though this is some kind of bad thing to desire, but what could possibly be wrong with desiring to strengthen your bond with your girlfriend because you're going through all these experiences for the first time together? It's because you value her and you value the sexual experience that you want to treasure that. That is a beautiful impulse. There's nothing wrong with that. It's an expression of wanting to be closer to your partner through that shared experience. And actually, when phrased like that, the women that we were interviewing had a revelation, and suddenly they could see why men found this so important.
Do you think having many sexual partners in the past would interfere with a woman's ability to pair bond, ability to pair bond or love her partner?
I think it could. I think it could too. But it depends. Again, each woman is different. Yeah. But I think it could definitely affect that.
And why do you think it might?
Well, if they're all pretty short term, then it can be hard to train yourself to think of that as a long-term relationship. It's almost like spreading yourself thin. It just hurts more every time, I think. So I think as few people you can spread your heart to, it's easier to commit to that one person.
Isn't it fascinating to see their change of heart? The woman on the right is absolutely correct when she says that if you've had a lot of short-term partners, it trains your brain to think a certain way. And when you've hardwired your mind for promiscuity and one-night stands, it's a lot more difficult to stomach long-term committed monogamy. That is one of the important reasons why men need to be cautious around women who've slept with lots of men. I've shown this graph before, but I'm going to bring it up again because it really demonstrates this point. Here you can see the trend that the more partners a woman has had, the less likely she is to be happy in a marriage, and the more likely she is to get divorced. It was also interesting to hear that woman on the left because the way that she phrased it was that you're spreading yourself too thin. And if you spread yourself too thin, it makes it harder to commit to just one person. And she's absolutely right. If you want to see the full transformation, have a look at this final piece of footage.
Do women moderate their sexual behavior in their 20s, knowing that one day they might make a long-term commitment to just one man, do you think?
In general, yes. Yeah. I would say it's a big consideration. I think that's the main reason women would not have sex, is so that they are able to commit more to their partner at that time, later in time, I guess.
There is an acknowledgement now with a positive attitude that women will restrain their impulses for promiscuity because they want to maintain their virtue and gift it to their future long-term partner. That makes sense to me. Any woman who's not engaging in promiscuous behavior is trying to give her future marriage the best possible chance. I think that that is the rational choice. Now, very quickly, I need to add some disclaimers. The first being that just because you have been promiscuous in your past, or your partner has been, does not mean that you're destined to be unhappy in a marriage. Let's have another look at that graph. So even though there is this trend, it's not absolute. It's not like 100% to 0%. There are still lots of people who are happy despite having a promiscuous past. So remember, you don't have to be a statistic. Also, I do not approve of shaming women for their sexual past. I think that kind of behavior when it comes from men is completely obnoxious. There is a big difference between making the personal choice to not date women who've had a lot of partners in their past and calling women whores on the internet. And I completely condemn the second. I actually have a few more disclaimers to make. I apologize for so many caveats, but it's very easy to be misunderstood on this topic. It's important to know that you can work past it, even if you're an extremely inexperienced man and you've fallen for a girl who's had lots of partners in the past. That doesn't have to be a problem that sinks your relationship. You can move through that. I want to be able to validate your sadness and say that the feelings of grief that you have are completely legitimate. But know that grief doesn't last forever. You can still be happy. You can still talk this out and have a very successful relationship. The past can define you if you're still the same person, but it does not have to. Who knows, maybe she's learned from these experiences, just like you've learned from the mistakes that you made in your past. What happened to her in her history may have turned her into the person that she is now, which you love. You need to judge every person on an individual case-by-case basis. There's no absolute formula for this. I have already made a video on this about how to work through it, and I'll put a link to that down below if you haven't seen that yet. And lastly, if you're a woman listening to this and you've had a lot of partners in your past, and you're concerned about the ability to attract a high quality man in your future, let me reassure you that there is a class of men who aren't going to care that you've had a lot of partners, many of whom are nice, good, high quality guys. The men that I'm talking about are men who have also had a lot of partners, who've been highly promiscuous in their past. They don't mind your sexual history if you don't mind their sexual history. There is an equality there, so there's not going to be so much of a power differential. You'll probably both have concerns about your partner's past promiscuity and whether that means that they're going to be more likely to stray. But again, that's definitely something that you can work on. It doesn't have to be an absolute. And lastly, I want to give my personal opinion as to the appropriate circumstances when to sleep with somebody. And for that, I just have 2 criteria that have to be met. First criteria, I think you should be in a relationship with somebody. The second criteria is the person that you're sleeping with should be a high quality person. That's it. Those are the only 2 criteria. Once you meet those, go nuts, have fun. And it's important to know that I would apply those criteria equally to men and women. So there it is. I want to give props to the 2 girls in this video. I know it's not easy to just come up with opinions on the spot, and obviously don't know that much about them, but I think that it is the hallmark of a high quality woman to be able to listen to incoming information with an open mind and to reconsider your previously held positions and adjust them when new evidence or a new perspective comes to light. So bravo to you girls. I'll leave you with this. It is not helpful to shame women for their sexual history, but it is also not helpful to shame men who have a preference for a woman with a more modest history. How to be a high quality man. That is the topic of my latest video. In this video, I explain the many reasons why I haven't yet covered this topic on my main YouTube channel. I also talk about other self-improvement or philosophy channels and why they have so much difficulty covering this issue. I give my personal recipe for what constitutes a high quality man, and lastly, the essentials that you need to cover before you can know that you are deserving of a high quality woman. If you've been curious to know what is my opinion on the characteristics of a high quality man, I cover it in this video. For every video that I post on YouTube, I post an additional bonus video on my Patreon page. That means that at the moment, you're only seeing half of the total content that I create. If you'd like to see the other half, then please go and sign up at my Patreon page. It's just $5 a month and you get instant access to a whole bunch of exclusive videos. It's a fantastic way to support the channel and I'd really be grateful to get your support.